Jake Morrison walked into the big room where all the aliens were waiting. His boots made soft sounds on the metal floor. He was not scared, even though hundreds of strange creatures were looking at him. Some had 6 arms. Others had skin like rocks. A few looked like giant bugs. Jake was a soldier from Earth. He had fought in many wars and seen many things. But this was different. Today, he had to prove that humans were strong enough to join the best fighters in the galaxy. The room was huge. The walls were white and covered with lights. Strange machines hung from the ceiling. Jake could hear them making soft buzzing sounds. He knew these machines would try to hurt him today. An alien that looked like a walking crystal stepped forward. This was Commander Vexthel. He was the leader of the Zephyrians. His people did not like humans. They thought humans were too weak. "So you are the human," Vexthel said. His voice sounded like breaking glass. "Your people say you are tough. But we know the truth. You come from a weak planet with weak gravity. Our children train in conditions that would kill you." Jake did not say anything. He just looked at the alien commander. Jake had heard words like this before. In the army, people always said things to make you angry. The trick was to stay calm. Other aliens started talking. They spoke in different languages, but Jake's translator told him what they meant. Most of them agreed with Vexthel. Humans were new to space. They had not proven themselves yet. "Your world has such light gravity," said another alien. This one looked like a big cat with 4 eyes. "How can you fight when real weight pushes down on you?" Jake remembered his training on Earth. He had carried heavy packs up mountains. He had run for miles with extra weight on his back. His drill sergeant had always said that pain was just weakness leaving the body. Jake had learned to love that pain. A floating creature came toward them. It looked like a jellyfish made of light. This was the Arbiter. It would make sure the test was fair. "The test will start now," the Arbiter said. Its voice was soft and calm. "We will begin with standard combat gravity. That is 15 times stronger than your home world. Most aliens need special suits to live in such conditions. 15 times stronger." Jake thought about this. On Earth, he weighed about 180 pounds. In this test, he would weigh almost 3,000 pounds. That was like carrying a small car on his back. "Many fighters have tried this test," Vexthel continued. "Only the strongest pass. Most cannot even stand up when the gravity turns on. Those who can stand cannot move. Those who can move cannot fight." Jake looked around the room. He saw other humans watching from a high window. Lieutenant Amy Parker was there. She worked for the Earth government. She looked worried. Jake understood why. If he failed today, it would be bad for all humans. The aliens kept talking about how weak humans were. They said Earth was too easy. They said humans had never faced real challenges. Jake almost smiled. These aliens did not know about Earth's wars. They did not know about the places where humans had fought and died. Jake thought about his grandfather. The old man had worked in steel factories where the heat could kill you. He had told Jake that humans were different from other creatures. When things got hard, humans got harder. "Are you ready, human?" Vexthel asked. Jake nodded. He took off his jacket and rolled up his sleeves. He checked his boots to make sure they were tight. He stretched his arms and legs like he always did before training. The other aliens laughed. They thought Jake was being silly. What good would stretching do against crushing gravity? "He thinks exercise will help him," one alien said. "How cute." Jake ignored them. He walked to the center of the room where a big circle was marked on the floor. This was where the test would happen. The machines above him started making louder sounds. He could feel energy building in the air. "Last chance, too." "Quit," Vexthel said. "No shame in knowing your limits." Jake looked up at the alien commander. "I don't know what that word means," he said. "What word?" "Limits." Some aliens laughed, but others got quiet. There was something in Jake's voice that made them listen. It was not anger or fear. It was something else. Something they had not heard before. The Arbiter floated higher. Beginning test sequence. Gravity field will activate in 10 seconds. Jake got into a fighting stance. His feet were apart. His knees were bent. His back was straight. This was how he always stood when trouble was coming. 5 seconds, the Arbiter announced. Jake closed his eyes and took a deep breath. He thought about all the times people had told him something was impossible. Running 20 miles with a full pack. Climbing a mountain in winter. Fighting in a desert where the heat could cook you. He had done all those things. Today would be no different. Gravity field activated. The weight hit Jake like a giant hand pushing him down. His knees bent and his shoulders dropped. The air felt thick and heavy. His heart started beating faster as his body tried to deal with the crushing force. All around him, aliens leaned forward to watch. They expected to see the human fall. They expected to see him give up. Instead, Jake slowly stood up straight. Room went quiet. Even the machines seemed to stop buzzing. Jake opened his eyes and looked at Vexthel. Under all that weight, carrying almost 3,000 pounds, Jake smiled. "What's next?" he asked. Jake stood in the gravity field, feeling like a mountain was sitting on his shoulders. Every step took great effort. When he moved his arm, it felt like lifting a heavy weight. But he was still standing, and that surprised everyone. "Commander." Vexthel's crystal face changed colors. Jake could tell the alien was confused. "Interesting," Vexthel said. "You can stand. But standing still is not fighting. Let us see if you can move." The room around Jake started to change. Walls came up from the floor. Barriers appeared everywhere. Soon Jake was standing in the middle of a maze made for fighting. There were things to climb over, things to crawl under, and things to jump across. "This is the combat course," the Arbiter explained. "You must reach the other end. Along the way, you will face different challenges. Most aliens use special equipment to help them move in this gravity." Jake looked at the course. Under normal gravity, it would be easy. But carrying 3,000 pounds made everything different. Each step forward required all his strength. "Begin when ready," Vexthel said. He was smiling now, sure that Jake would fail. Jake started walking toward the first barrier. It was a wall about 4 feet high. Normally, he could step over it easily. Now, lifting his leg that high felt like lifting a car. He put his hands on the wall and slowly lifted one leg. His muscles shook from the effort. Sweat started running down his face. But he got his leg over the wall. Then the other leg. The aliens, watching, made surprised sounds. "How is he doing that?" asked Dr. Kethera, the Zephyrian scientist. His bones should be breaking. Jake kept moving. The next challenge was a low tunnel. He had to crawl through it on his hands and knees. Under this much gravity, crawling felt like doing push-ups with a truck on his back. But Jake had crawled through mud and sand in Earth's deserts. He had moved through jungle where every step was a fight. This was harder, but not impossible. He got down and started crawling. Each movement forward was slow and painful. His arms shook, his back hurt, but he kept going. Behind him, he could hear aliens talking. "Look at his heart rate," one said. "It should have stopped by now." "His breathing is still controlled," said another. "How is that possible?" Jake reached the end of the tunnel and stood up. The next part of the course had ropes hanging from the ceiling. He was supposed to swing from one to another to cross a deep pit. Under normal gravity, this would be fun. Under 15 times gravity, The ropes would have to hold 3,000 pounds. If one broke, Jake would fall hard. He grabbed the first rope. His hands hurt from holding his own weight. The rope stretched but did not break. Jake pushed off and swung to the next rope. Then the next. The aliens watched in silence. Amy Parker was watching from the window above. She was scared for Jake, but also proud. She knew Jake was tough, but this was beyond anything she had imagined. "Sir," she said to the Earth ambassador next to her, "should we stop this? He could get hurt." The ambassador shook his head. Jake volunteered for this. And if he stops now, every alien in the galaxy will think humans are weak. Down in the test area, Jake had reached the climbing section. There was a wall 15 feet high with small handholds. He had to climb up and over it. Jake put his hands on the first holds and started climbing. Each move up required enormous strength. His fingers felt like they might break from the pressure. Sweat made the holds slippery. Halfway up, Jake stopped to rest. His arms were shaking. His legs felt like they were on fire. For a moment, he thought about giving up. Then he remembered something his grandfather had told him. "Boy," the old man had said, "humans are not the strongest creatures on Earth. We are not the fastest or the toughest. But we never quit. When everything else gives up, humans keep going." Jake kept climbing. At the top of the wall, he looked down at all the aliens. They were not laughing anymore. They were watching him with something that looked like respect. "Gravity field is stable," announced the computer. "Subject is performing within acceptable parameters." "Acceptable?" Vexville shouted. "This is impossible. Increase the gravity to 18 times normal." "Sir," said the arbiter, "that is dangerous for most species." "Do it." Jake felt the extra weight hit him. Now he weighed even more. His knees almost gave out, but he stayed standing. The course was only half finished. The next section had moving targets. Jake had to hit them with a training weapon while moving through the obstacles. This required speed and accuracy. Under this much gravity, most aliens could not even lift. The weapon. Jake picked up the training rifle. It felt like it weighed 100 pounds, but he managed to hold it steady. The first target appeared, moving fast across the course. Jake aimed carefully. Under all this weight, his hands were very steady. He could not move fast, but he could aim well. He pulled the trigger. The target exploded in a shower of light. "Direct hit," announced the computer. More targets appeared. Jake hit them one by one. His movements were slow but precise. Where other fighters might miss because they moved too fast, Jake hit everything because he moved carefully. "This is not possible," Dr. Cathara said. "No unaugmented being should perform this well under such pressure." But Jake was not just performing well. He was getting better. His body was learning to work with the gravity instead of fighting against it. What had started as crushing weight was becoming part of his strength. The aliens watching began to understand something. This human was not just surviving their test. He was adapting to it. And that was something they had never seen before. Jake reached the end of the second section and looked back at what he had accomplished. The course behind him would have defeated most aliens, even with their special equipment. He had done it, with nothing but human determination. "What's the next challenge?" he asked, wiping sweat from his face. Vexville's crystal features darkened with anger. "Increase gravity to 20 times normal," he ordered. "Sir, that exceeds all safety protocols," the arbiter warned. "I don't care. This human will not make fools of us." Jake felt the gravity increase again. Now he weighed over 3,600 pounds. The weight was so great that the floor under his feet began to crack. But somehow, impossibly, Jake remained standing, and he was still smiling. The 20 times gravity hit Jake like a falling building. His whole body shook under the enormous weight. Now he weighed more than a small truck. The metal floor under his feet made groaning sounds. But Jake did not fall down. He took a deep breath and straightened his back. Every muscle in his body was working as hard as it could. His heart was beating fast, but it was still beating. The aliens around the room went completely quiet. "Computer, scan the human," ordered Dr. Cathara. "I need to know how he is still." "Alive. Subject shows extreme stress, but remains functional," the computer replied. "Bone density is holding. Cardiovascular system is adapting. Brain activity shows focus and determination rather than panic." Vexthal could not believe what he was hearing. "That is impossible. Nothing can adapt this quickly to such forces." Jake looked at the crystal alien commander. Speaking was hard, under all this weight, but he managed to say, "You don't know much about humans, do you?" The next part of the course appeared in front of Jake. This was the combat section. Holographic enemies would attack him with energy weapons. He had to fight them while carrying all this extra weight most aliens needed special powered armor for. This part, the armor would help them move and protect them from the simulated weapons. Jake had no armor. He had no special equipment. He only had his training and his will to win. The first holographic enemy appeared 20 feet away. It looked like a warrior from some alien race Jake had never seen. The enemy raised its weapon and started shooting energy blasts at Jake. Under normal gravity, Jake would have rolled or jumped to avoid the shots. Under 20 times gravity, rolling was impossible. Jumping was impossible. So Jake did something else. He used the weight. When the enemy shot at him, Jake turned his body slowly, but with enormous force. The extra weight made him very stable. The energy blasts missed him by inches. Then Jake raised his training weapon and fired back. The shot hit the holographic enemy right in the center. It disappeared in a flash of light. "Target eliminated," announced the computer. More enemies appeared. They came from different directions, trying to confuse Jake. But the heavy gravity that was supposed to make him weak was actually making him stronger in some ways. Jake could not move fast, but he could move with great power. When he turned with the force of a truck. When he aimed his weapon, the weight made his hands completely steady. He could not dodge the enemy shots, but he could make every one of his shots count. One by one, the holographic enemies fell. Jake hit every target. His movements were slow but perfect. The aliens watching had never seen anything like it. "He is using the gravity as a weapon," Dr. Cathara whispered. "Instead of fighting against it, he is fighting with it." Up in the observation window, Amy Parker was amazed. She had known Jake was tough, but this was beyond tough. This was something special. Jake was not just surviving the test. He was making it look easy. "How is he doing this?" asked the Earth ambassador. "I think," Amy said slowly, "he is having fun." Down in the test area, Jake was indeed starting to enjoy himself. For the first time in months, he felt like a real soldier. Again, this was what he had trained for his whole life. Not the politics or the meetings, but the pure challenge of pushing his body and mind to their limits. The combat section ended, and Jake looked around for the next challenge. More of the course appeared. This time, it was a climbing wall 40 feet high. At the top was a flag he had to capture. Under 20 times gravity, Jake weighed over 3,600 pounds. Climbing 40 feet while carrying that much weight should have been impossible. The handholds on the wall were designed for aliens with special equipment. Jake walked to the base of the wall and looked up. It was very high. If he fell, the weight would make him hit the ground with tremendous force. He could be badly hurt or killed. "You don't have to do this part," called the arbiter. "You have already proven more than anyone expected." Jake shook. His head, I came here to finish the test, all of it. He grabbed the first handhold and started climbing. Each move up required all his strength. His fingers hurt from holding so much weight. The handholds were small and not designed for human hands, but Jake kept climbing. He thought about all the mountains he had climbed on Earth. He thought about the rock faces he had scaled during training. This was higher and harder, but the principle was the same. One hold at a time. One move at a time. Halfway up the wall, Jake's left hand slipped. For a terrible moment, he hung by just his right hand. The weight tried to pull him down. The aliens watching thought he would fall, but Jake's grip held. He found another handhold and kept climbing. His muscles were screaming in pain, but his mind was calm and focused. "Look at his vital signs," Dr. Kethara said to her assistant. "His stress hormones are actually decreasing. He is becoming calmer as the test gets harder." "How is that possible?" the assistant asked. "I don't know, but I think we are seeing something that has never been documented before." Jake reached the top of the wall and grabbed the flag. He held it up high so everyone could see. Even under crushing gravity, even with sweat running down his face, he was smiling. The aliens in the room began to make sounds. Some were cheering. Others were just amazed. They had never seen any creature adapt to impossible conditions the way this human was doing. Jake began climbing down the other side of the wall. This was actually harder than climbing up. Going down, he had to control his enormous weight carefully, or he would fall, but he made it to the bottom safely. The flag was still in his hand. He had completed another impossible challenge. How much more of the course is there? Jake asked. The arbiter checked its information. 2 more sections. But perhaps we should stop here. You have proven your point. What point is that? Jake asked. That humans are stronger than we thought. Jake shook his head. No, I haven't proven we are strong. I have proven we don't quit. There is a difference. Vexthel was furious. Nothing was going the way he had planned. The human should have been crushed by now. Instead, he was succeeding at every challenge. Increase gravity to 25 times. Normal, Vexthel ordered. Sir, that could kill him, warned the arbiter. Then he should surrender now. Jake heard this conversation. 25 times gravity would make him weigh over 4,500 pounds. That was more than some small cars. But Jake had come too far to quit now. Bring it on, he said simply. The gravity field increased again. The weight hit Jake like a falling mountain. His knees buckled, and he almost fell. The floor under his feet cracked even more. Warning alarms started going off, but Jake straightened up again. Under impossible weight, carrying more than any human had ever carried, he stood tall and looked at his alien audience. What's next? He asked. Under 25 times gravity, Jake weighed more than most cars. The force was so strong that the air itself seemed thick and heavy. Every breath was hard work. Every heartbeat took effort. But Jake was still standing, and that scared the aliens. More than anything they had ever seen, Dr. Kethara was frantically checking her instruments. This should not be possible, she said to her assistant. Look at these readings. His body is not just surviving this pressure. It is getting better at handling it. Better how? The assistant asked. His heart rate is slowing down. His breathing is becoming more efficient. It is like his body is learning to work with the gravity instead of fighting it. In the observation window above, Amy Parker was holding her breath. She had never been more proud or more scared in her life. Jake was doing something that would change how the galaxy saw humans forever. Should we stop this? Asked the Earth ambassador. He could die down there. Amy shook her head. If we stop him now, he will never forgive us. And neither will Earth. Down in the test area, Jake was looking at the next challenge, The final two sections of the course were the hardest. The first was a maze filled with traps and puzzles. The second was a pure endurance test where he had to carry heavy objects across a long distance. Under normal gravity, these challenges were hard but fair. Under 25 times gravity, they were designed to be impossible for any living creature without mechanical help. Jake started walking toward the maze. Each step sent shock waves through the metal floor. His boots left small dents where he walked. But his movements were getting smoother. His body was adapting in ways that amazed even him. The maze entrance was narrow. Jake had to squeeze through sideways because of his enormous effective weight. Inside, the maze was dark and full of obstacles. There were pressure plates that would trigger traps if he stepped on them wrong. There were walls that would close if he moved too slowly. But Jake had been through mazes like this before. In army training, they had built similar courses to test soldiers under stress. The trick was to stay calm and think clearly. He moved through the maze carefully. When he came to a pressure plate, he studied it first. Under all this weight, if he stepped wrong, he would trigger every trap in the area. But Jake's mind was clear and focused. He found the safe path through each trap. He solved the puzzles one by one. The heavy gravity that was supposed to make him clumsy actually made him more careful and precise. "Look at his brain scans," Dr. Cathara told her team. "The stress is not making him panic. It is making him more focused. This is completely opposite to what should happen." Vexthal was getting desperate. Nothing was working the way it should. "Computer, analyze the human's performance compared to other species. Human Jake Morrison is performing 340% better than the average alien warrior in similar conditions." The computer replied, "His adaptation rate is unprecedented in galactic records." "That cannot be right. Run the analysis again." Analysis confirmed. The human is not just surviving the test. He is excelling at it. Jake completed the maze and emerged into the final section. This was the endurance challenge. He had to carry 4 heavy objects from one end of a long room to the other. Under normal gravity, each object weighed 200 pounds. Under 25 times gravity, each one now weighed 5,000 pounds. Most aliens would need a team of robots to move objects this heavy. Jake was supposed to carry them one at a time, using only his strength. He walked to the first object. It was a metal cube about 2 feet on each side. Jake bent down and wrapped his arms around it. The weight was enormous, but Jake had lifted heavy things before. In the army, he had carried wounded soldiers while under enemy fire. He had moved equipment through mud and rain and snowdot. This was heavier than anything he had ever lifted. But the principle was the same. Use your legs, keep your back straight, and don't think about how heavy it is. Jake lifted the cube. His muscles strained and his bones creaked, but he got it off the ground. Then he started walking across the room. Each step was a battle against the crushing weight. The aliens watching could not believe their eyes. Jake was carrying 5,000 pounds like it was a heavy suitcase. His face showed the strain, but his movements were steady and controlled. "How strong is this human?" asked one alien. "It is not just strength," Dr. Cathara replied. "It is determination. His body should have failed long ago, but his mind will not let it quit." Jake reached the other end of the room and set down the first cube. He was breathing hard and sweating heavily, but he was not done. He walked back to get the second cube. This one was even harder to lift. Jake's muscles were tired from the first carry, but he wrapped his arms around the cube and lifted it anyway. The walk across the room took longer this time, but he made it out up in the observation window. Amy Parker was amazed by what she was seeing. "He is not just passing this test," she whispered. "He is making it look possible." The third cube was the hardest yet. Jake's whole body was shaking from exhaustion. Sweat was pouring down his face. But when he reached for the cube, his hands were steady. He lifted it and started walking. Halfway across the room, he stumbled. For a moment, it looked like he might fall. The weight of the cube, plus his own body weight, would have been enough to crack the floor. But Jake caught himself and kept walking. He would not quit. Not when he was this close to finishing. His heart rate is approaching dangerous levels, reported the medical computer. Recommend immediate termination of test. No, Jake called out, somehow hearing the computer's words. I finish what I start. He set down the third cube and went back for the fourth and final one. This was the heaviest of all. Jake's hands were shaking as he reached for it. His legs felt like they might give out at any moment, but he thought about his grandfather again. The old man had worked in conditions that would kill most people. He had never quit, never given up, never let anything stop him from doing what needed to be done. Jake lifted the final cube. It felt like lifting a small building. Every step across the room was agony. His vision started to blur from the effort. His heart was beating so hard he could hear it in his ears. But he kept walking, one step at a time, one foot in front of the other. The same way humans had always done impossible things. He reached the end of the room and set down the final cube. The test was complete. Jake had carried 20,000 pounds of weight under 25 times gravity. He had done something that no creature in galactic history had ever done. Jake stood up straight and looked at all the aliens watching him. He was exhausted, covered in sweat, and barely able to stand, but he was smiling. Test complete, announced the computer. All objectives achieved. Performance rating, exceptional. The room was completely silent. Hundreds of aliens from dozens of different species were staring at one human who had just redefined what they thought was possible. Then, slowly, one alien started clapping. Then another. Soon the entire room was filled with the sound of appreciation from creatures who had never seen anything like what Jake had just done. Jake wiped the sweat from his face and looked up at Amy Parker in the observation window. She was crying with pride and relief. Turn off the gravity field, Jake called to the arbiter. I think I have made my point. When the gravity field turned off, Jake felt like he was floating. After hours of carrying enormous weight, normal gravity felt like nothing at all. He expected to feel tired and sore, but instead he felt energized and alive. The other humans rushed down from the observation window. Amy Parker was the first to reach him. She looked like she wanted to hug him, but was afraid he might collapse. Jake, are you okay? She asked. How do you feel? Jake stretched his arms and rolled his shoulders like he always did after a workout. I feel good, he said. Really good. Like I just had the best training session of my life. The aliens around the room were talking in excited voices. They had never seen anything like what Jake had just done. Dr. Kethera was studying her readings with amazement. This is impossible, she kept saying. His body should be broken. He should be in medical emergency. Instead, his vital signs are better now than when he started. Commander Vexthal walked over to Jake. The crystal alien's face was no longer angry. Now he looked confused, and maybe even a little scared. Human Jake, Vexthal said slowly, I do not understand what I have seen today. You completed challenges that have defeated our strongest warriors. You did it without any special equipment or enhancement. How is this possible? Jake thought about the question. How could he explain to these aliens what it meant to be human? How could he tell them about the long history of his species, overcoming impossible odds? On my world, Jake said, we have a saying. When the going gets tough, the tough get going. It means that when things become hard, strong people become stronger. But the gravity should have crushed you, said Dr. Kethara. The weight was more than your bones could support. Jake smiled. You calculated what my bones could support under normal conditions. But humans don't live under normal conditions. We live under whatever conditions we find ourselves in, and we adapt. An alien that looked like a giant insect raised one of its many arms. But how do you adapt so quickly? Evolution takes millions of years. Evolution is for the long term, Jake replied. But humans also adapt in the short term. We call it training. Every challenge makes us stronger for the next challenge. The arbiter floated down from the ceiling. Its jellyfish-like body glowed with soft light. The Galactic Council must vote on your application to join the elite combat corps. But first, we must understand what we have witnessed today. What did you witness? Jake asked. We witnessed something that changes our understanding of what is possible, the arbiter replied. You did not just pass our test. You made our test look easy. That has never happened before. Amy Parker stepped forward. Jake represents the best of humanity. But he is not unique among our people. Earth has millions of soldiers, athletes, and workers who push themselves to their limits every day. The aliens looked at each other with concern. If Jake was not special among humans, what did that mean for the galaxy? How many more humans were there like him? Computer, called Vexthil. Show me the complete performance analysis. The computer's voice filled the room. Human Jake Morrison completed the Elite Combat Corps test under conditions 25 times more difficult than standard parameters. His performance exceeded all records in galactic history. Most significantly, his abilities improved during the test. Rather than degrading. Improved how? Asked Dr. Cathara. His efficiency increased by 23% during the test period. His accuracy improved by 31%. His endurance actually got better as the challenges became harder. This suggests unlimited potential for further improvement. The room went quiet as the aliens thought about what this meant. A species that got stronger under pressure. A people who improved when things got difficult. This was something new in the galaxy. A small alien that looked like a lizard walked up to Jake. Human Jake, I am Cadet Zix from the Reptani Defense Force. May I ask you a question? Sure, Jake said. How do I become strong like you? Jake knelt down, so he was at eye level with the young alien. Start with something that is just a little too hard for you, then do it anyway. Tomorrow, find something a little bit harder. Keep doing this until you run out of impossible things. But what if I fail? Cadet Zix asked. Then you learn from the failure and try again. On Earth, we say that failure is not falling down. Failure is staying down. Cadet Zix's eyes got wide with understanding. Other young aliens began gathering around Jake, all asking questions about training and strength and never giving up. Arbiter called for attention. The Galactic Council will now vote on humanity's application to join the Elite Combat Corps. The voting was quick and unanimous. Every species voted to accept humans into the elite fighting force. But more than that, they voted to ask human trainers to come and teach other species about adaptation and determination. After the voting, Vexthil approached Jake one more time. Human Jake, I owe you an apology. I thought your species was weak. Because your world seemed easy. I was wrong. My world is not easy, Jake replied. It just taught us to be tough in different ways. We learned that the strongest muscle is the one between your ears. The brain? The mind. The part that decides to keep going when everything else says to quit. Dr. Cathara was still studying her instruments. Jake, would you be willing to work with our scientists? We want to understand how human adaptation works. It could help other species become stronger too. I would be happy to help, Jake said. But remember, what you saw today was not magic. It was just training and determination. Any species can learn this if they want to work hard enough. As the aliens began to leave the testing chamber, Jake walked over to where Amy Parker was waiting. She still looked amazed by everything that had happened. "Jake, do you realize what you just did?" she asked. "You changed how the entire galaxy sees humanity." Jake shrugged. "I just did my job. That's what soldiers do." "No, this was more than that. You showed them that humans have something special, something that can't be measured or copied." "What's that?" "Heart, the will to keep going no matter what." Jake looked around the room at all the aliens who were still talking excitedly about what they had seen. Many of them were looking at him with new respect. Others seemed almost afraid of what humans might be capable of. "You know what the funny thing is?" Jake said to Amy. "What?" "I was just getting warmed up. If they had kept increasing the gravity, I could have handled more." Amy stared at him. "You're serious, aren't you? Dead serious? My grandfather used to say that humans are like steel. The more heat and pressure you put on us, the stronger we become." Dr. Kethara walked over to them with her assistant. "Jake, I have been studying your performance data. I have a question that might sound strange. Go ahead. Were you enjoying yourself during the test?" Jake thought about this. "You know, I was. For the first time in months, I felt like I was doing what I was meant to do, pushing my limits, facing a real challenge, proving what humans can accomplish." "This explains much," Dr. Kethara said to her assistant. He was not fighting against the stress. He was embracing it. This is why his performance improved. More aliens began approaching Jake. Word of his achievement was spreading throughout the station. Soon there was a crowd of beings from different worlds, all wanting to meet the human, who had redefined their understanding of physical limits. "Tell us about Earth," asked an alien that looked like a walking tree. "What kind of training do humans do?" Jake smiled. "We run up mountains carrying heavy packs. We swim in cold oceans. We fight in deserts where the heat can kill you, and in snow where the cold can freeze you solid. We do all of this just to prepare for the day when we might face something really difficult." "And what do you consider really difficult?" asked another alien. "Today was a good start," Jake replied. The crowd of aliens made surprised sounds. They had just watched Jake do the impossible, and he was calling it a good start. Commander Vexthal stepped forward. "Jake, on behalf of the Galactic Defense Force, I would like to offer you a position as Chief Training Instructor. Your job would be to teach other species the human methods of adaptation and improvement." "I accept," Jake said without hesitation. "But I have one condition." "What is that?" "I want to bring more humans to help with the training." What you saw today was just one human. Imagine what a team of us could accomplish. The aliens looked at each other nervously. The idea of multiple humans working together was both exciting and frightening. "How many humans are you thinking?" asked the Arbiter. "To start with, maybe a dozen of our best instructors. Marines, Special Forces, athletes, mountain climbers. People who understand what it means to push beyond your limits." "And what would they teach?" asked Dr. Kethara. "Everything. Physical conditioning, mental toughness, teamwork, leadership under pressure. But most importantly, they would teach what I showed you today, which is that the word impossible is just an opinion, and humans don't care much for other people's opinions." The meeting continued for another hour. Plans were made for human trainers to come to the Galactic Training Center. New testing protocols were designed based on what Jake had accomplished. The whole structure of elite military training was going to change because of what had happened in that room. Finally, the crowd began to disperse. Jake was left with Amy and a few of the senior officials. He was tired now, but it was a good tired. The kind of tired you feel after accomplishing something important. "Jake, Amy,